Alright, hello Guild Wars 2 gamers, Muckluck here, and today we've got an episode of I Tried, focused on the Heelsworn? I'm not sure what the community is calling it yet. For those that don't know, during the balance patch that happened a couple of weeks ago, the changes that they made added a couple of builds to the game that didn't exist in a very great state before then. That includes Condition Damage Bladesworn, Healing Bladesworn, Condition Damage Alacrity Providing Druid, and a few others. This is the Heelsworn. So, couple of notes on this one for anyone who might be considering playing this. A Bladesworn, once they are in combat, cannot weapon swap. And the reason for that is they get their own special weapon for the Bladesworn, which is the Gun Saber. So you have the Gun Saber plus one weapon. If you had another weapon here, you would not be able to weapon swap when you're in combat. You know what, I'll show you right now. So I've just put a mace there. I'm gonna run up to this thing and I'm gonna bonk it. And you notice the weapon swap button gets grayed out. You cannot use it, okay? So you really just need a staff for this, though there are some niche situations where you might want to use something else, but it's going to be staff like 90% of fights. So focusing on that. So what is the build? How do you play it? Let me first set up a test here, and I'm going to turn on a pulsing damage field on moderate, which is akin to most of the fights in the game. And we're going to run in. I'm getting quickness from the terminal just to pretend I'm with a quickness provider. So I'm just going to run in, and I am going to hit flow stabilizer here, and we're going to do this, and boom, there's 25 stacks of might, and use that 2, and hit this and this, and then we're gonna go back to this, and there's all the boons. We're in our rotation now. We're just doing this in circles. We're providing everything that's needed, and we're healing through this without sweating at all. Okay? I am also, even though I am not very fluent with this build, I was able to heal through the extreme damage field as well with no problem. Okay, so what's the build? How do you play it? How does it feel? So for the gear, we're running Harriers on all of this, the weapon as well as the armor. Over here, we're using Harriers on the top row. We are using Magi's on the backpack, and down here on the bottom row, we are running Giver's gear for the 2 rings and the amulet. For the relic, we're using Relic of Phoebe. It gives you swiftness. Usually, for a support warrior, swiftness is provided by the Warhorn, but because we're locked into the staff with this, we are using Relic of Phoebe. If you were to, for example, bring Mace and Warhorn, you could swap this relic out for something else, but then your healing output would go down quite a bit, and your protection uptime would suffer unless you made other changes because you would lose the staff. Okay. First of all, on the gearing, I just talked about all of this stuff. Oh, I didn't talk about sigils, concentration and paralyzation, and we've got superior runes of water on the armor. Now, after trying it out, you notice I did 1.4k DPS during that sample. That's about what I did in real fights, less than 2k damage per second. So in my mind, I'm thinking, why bring Harrier's gear if the damage output of this is so low? And obviously it's a heal build, but there are some heal builds that break like 10k damage. This is not one of them. So if you want to be an unkillable healer, just run like Giver's gear or something. It's basically the same stats for healing. So you notice the healing power is the same, the concentration is the same, but you trade power for toughness. So if you go full Givers, you're going to be an unkillable brick house and be healing, but your damage is going to go from like 1k to 500. But it's like, who cares, because it was already so low. So if you wanted to run like full Givers, that would be fine. All right, so that's the equipment. This is the build, and let's talk about some of the traits here really quick. So we've got Tactics, which gives you a skill called Soldier's Focus. Basically, every 10 seconds, you get this buff called Soldier's Focus, and the next time you hit an enemy with Dragon Trigger, you will consume the Soldier's Focus and do a whole bunch of good stuff. In this case, there's prot, there's stability for the team, there's cleansing of conditions, and there's a heal. So this is giving prot and heal to Soldier's Focus. This is just bonus damage for each boon you have, not really impactful. This is passive might generation for the whole party, and this is applying might to an ally will heal you, doesn't really affect the build much. And this is whenever you consume Soldier's Focus, you give your allies stability and 2 Condi Cleanse. This is your leading source of Condi Cleanse. So roughly every 10 seconds, you'll cleanse 2 conditions on the team and give them all stability for 6 seconds, which is pretty nice. And then under Discipline, we've got just more healing, gain swiftness when swapping weapons, but this is self only. This is not hitting your group, so the Relic of Phoebe will hit the group. Banners are better, essentially, and gain might on weapons swap. You're going to be at max might anyway. Burst skills grant reduced recharge. That's nice. And Heightened quickness, you will give yourself quickness when your burst skills hit a foe that is below 50% health. You're going to already have quickness from your team. This is a group build. You wouldn't be running around using this in like the open world. But you also gain increased outgoing healing when you hit with a burst skill. That will affect your team. And finally, down here in BLADESWORN, this is power, this is Condi, this is heal, so there's really only one choice. Also, fun fact that I've learned, it also changes the color of your sword, but the heal one is yellow. And then in the third column, I'm going to skip to the end for a second, this is the one that gives alacrity, so there's not really a choice here. This one, you can run Lush Forest or Unshakable Mountain, but Lush Forest seems to be the much more popular option talking to warrior mains, so I believe that is the standard. Lush Forest is whenever you use the first round of ammo, it reduces the recharge of all your other skills by 3/4 of a second. So this is ammo, this is ammo, this is ammo, and then in Gunsaber, this and this and this are ammo. This is ammo, but when you use it, it uses all the ammo, so it will not trigger the trait. And then in Dragon Trigger, this and this are ammo. So if you use the first thing on each of these, it will reduce the cooldown of everything. So you've got a lot of things that can proc Lush Forest to make your other things come off cooldown faster. For the traits up here, this one is flex slot. The others are the standard right now. Combat Stimulant will heal yourself, and if it was already active, it does boons, but again, it is an ammo, so using the first charge of it will trigger the Relic of Phoebe, giving the whole group swiftness, and it will also trigger Lush Forest. Flow Stabilizer, it gives you some flow, just keeps filling the bar that you use for your Dragon Trigger stuff. For Great Justice, you just hit this anytime it gets to 2 of the charges, and it will help with Fury and Might uptime. And the elite skill, I went to Snow Crows to get a lot of the knowledge that I needed for this build, and the elite skill that they recommend is actually Tactical Reload. And it's used in the opener, so it'll make like the start of the fight easier, but it's not really used, according to this guide, anytime after that. So I opt, after trying both out, I felt that it didn't really hurt me much, other than like for a second or two at the start of the fight, to take Battle Standard, which ended up saving a few lives. You know, we were doing Bone Skinner today, some people messed up, I was able to use this and, you know, res them, and we could just keep going. So Battle Standard is obviously a very pug-friendly tool, because you never know the skill level of other people, or if they might make a mistake or something. And, you know, once per 90 seconds, you can say, all of you get back up. It's a 5-man res in a pretty generous area, and that's what it looks like. So I was using Battle Standard after I tried both out, but the other one that some people use is Tactical Reload. And so that's what you got. Now the flex slot, I've got Banner of Tactics there, which gives the group stability on demand. You are throwing stability on teammates kind of haphazardly with Martial Cadence, but if you need it for a specific moment and you're not sure if you're going to have it on the group, then this is that. Other things that you could take there might be Shake It Off to have another cleanse option, Banner of Defense for another Aegis option, and Kick for more Defiance Break, stuff like that. There are other options for that slot. I opted to go Banner of Tactics. Now let's talk about how to play it in the individual tools here. So I am going to turn off the damage field so I can just focus on talking and not keeping myself alive. So at the start of the fight, you are going to run in, use both your flow stabilizers. If you're running Tactical Reload, hit that. Then go into Dragon Trigger, and it's going to charge. Now, just pausing here for a second. Dragon Trigger 1 gives 10 might to the team. 2 gives a massive heal. 3 does ACC. So you're going to use the 1 at the beginning of the fight to get those might stacks up. But on all the future ones, you're just going to use the 2. All right? So, start of the fight, you run in, you pop Flow Stabilizer, Tactical Reload. You could even use 1 charge of each of these. The 4 just gives Aegis, the 5 is a little teleport, and then 1, and your might generation is done. Then, when you're in Gunsaber, at the minimum, you're going to use the 2 if it's at 2 stacks. That keeps regen on the party. Other options, 3 is a big healing field that hits a big area. 4 is a Condi cleanse for the team. And 5 is a little movement skill that gives Fury, but you don't need that to keep Fury up. So at the minimum, you're just hitting the 2 one time, and then you're dropping Gunsaber and you're in Staff, and you're going to use the 2 and the 3. The 2 and the 3 will keep up Fury, help with Might, put Prot on the group, the 3 does Aegis on the group every time you'd use that on them, so that'll block the next attack. 4 and the 5 you can save for situations. 4 is a CC, and the 5 is a massive heal and resolution on the team. So, like, it's 8,300 on the tooltip. It is a very big heal. And that's it. That's the whole rotation. Then we go back into Dragon Trigger. So I'm going to use the 4 and the 5. I'm going to do the 2 slash, which is the heal, and now I'm in Gun Saber. I'm going to use the 2 bare minimum, maybe the 4 for a Condi Cleanse. Then I'm going to drop that, use the 2 and the 3 and the staff, and then I'm going to go back into Dragon Trigger again. That's it. That's the whole loop. This is really easy to learn. And again, you want to keep using these whenever they get to max stacks. So whenever they're at 2 of each, you use them, and they reduce the cooldown of everything else, and they help with boons. So bringing it all together, we flow stabilizers, start the fight, 4, 5. We're going to do the slash, and then we're going to use the 2, and then swap to the staff, and use the 2 and the 3. My heal has 2 charges, so I'm going to hit that, and then back into Dragon Trigger again, and slash again, and do the 2, and use for Great Justice, go back to staff, 2 and 3. And you can see, we're swapping between what's effectively 3 weapons and using 1 or 2 buttons on each of the weapons, and we're keeping up Prot, Regen, Fury, Swiftness, Alacrity, 25 Might. We're throwing Stability and Aegis out there just in the rotation from time to time, but if you need more dependable versions of Stability and Aegis, it is very easy to acquire that. And that's basically the thing. So talking about cleansing, anytime you trigger Soldier's Focus, that will cleanse the whole party for 2 conditions. Your only other cleanse in this is the Gun Saber 4. Cyclone Trigger is a cleanse on the team. It's also a Reflect Projectiles, which you saw right there. And that's it for cleansing. Stability is the Soldier's Focus proc and Banner of Tactics if you're using that. If you need more Condi Cleanse for a fight, let's say you're fighting Slothosaur, you could swap out Banner of Tactics and bring Shake It Off, and then you'd have a 3rd Condi Cleanse button on demand. But yeah, it's a solid build. It's very tanky just because Warrior, and it could be even more tanky if you did it in full Giver's gear instead of Harriers, because I don't really feel like the Harriers is doing much for the power. The healing output is fantastic. Again, I was able to heal inside of a extreme damage field with no problem. When I took a group to Bone Skinner, some people made some mistakes. I was playing a class that I am not fluent on, like I don't have any muscle memory for Warrior at this time, and was able to keep everybody up unless they stood in the puddles, which, you know, you can't heal through. So like the healing output is very good. The boon output is very good. It's very easy to pick up. And there's a small argument to be made that it's going to be one of the easiest healers to gear out, simply because it ignores 1 weapon set. So that's one less thing that you've got to get. If you're like a newer player, you're just getting to max level, you're looking for a build you want to play, if this, you know, catches your attention, you don't have to get a second weapon for this, just a staff and then, you know, the other items. So it's a hair easier to gear than other things, which I think gives it a small advantage that's worth mentioning. Yeah, I think that's it. So yeah, Heal Bladesworn, very solid, get the job done, doesn't supply a lot of damage. It does very good boons, very good healing, has access to all the tools a healer needs, and it's quite easy to learn. You're rotating between 3 weapons on a rotation, and you're hitting like 1 or 2 buttons on each weapon and just cycling through them repeatedly, and then the other buttons are there for like if you need them. Like, for example, if when I hit staff, I use the 2 and the 3, which I always do, and then there's someone that's low health, the 5 is the massive heal. You know, you got that in the back pocket for when you need it, and things like that. So yeah, pretty good build. That's my thoughts on it, and it is solid enough that I would recommend it to anybody who is interested in playing it. And if you got any questions, problems, thoughts, concerns, put them in the comment section down below, and I'll fight you there.